All right, welcome to Anatomy and Physiology. It doesn't look like it's coming up on my YouTube. All right, here we are live. Welcome to week 2 of Anatomy and Physiology with your professor here. This is me, Dr. Sean Clavel. And today we are reviewing and going over week 2. Week 2. I'm going to record this as I go. Today we're going over and reviewing week 2. Week number 1, we call this an intro to anatomy and physiology. As a matter of fact, you guys are going to have a test over chapter 1 here this week. We're on the eve of that test here this week, and we'll talk a little bit about that here. But first, let me get into the canvas here. Let's get into a couple of things that you guys will need to guide you here through the semester. And there it is. Grab the canvas here. Here's your canvas. I'll start with my online class here. And so what you'll see under your canvas here, we've got modules. In week 2, we're going over, I'll give you the student view here. In week 2, we're going over chapters 2, and then next week we'll go over chapter 3. But what we'll see here is that weeks 2 and 3 include chapters 2 and 3, the chemical and cellular levels of organization. Those tests have been scheduled for September the 5th, a few weeks away from there. This one is the chapter 1 that we've been focusing on. You can see here that chapter 1, the exam is available. Well, we're on the eve of that exam here. It'll be available on Thursday. Again, it covers primarily chapter 1. The big key here is anatomical orientation. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what to expect on this exam while we're here. So the first thing I want to talk about is again, the idea is that you will have a 50 questions on the exam. You'll have 1 hour and 15 minutes to complete this exam as well. So I didn't write that here, but I'll type that right here at the top. You'll have 1 hour and 15 minutes to complete once it is open. So again, this goes over chapter 1 primarily. As it relates to chapter 1, we'll talk a little bit about some of those topics. But this test will contain 50 questions. Let me make that a different color. It'll be 50 questions. Each question will be 1.5 points each, and for a total of about 75 points. So for context, one of your lab assignments, right? One lab assignment total comes out to about 75 points. So this exam here comes to about 75 points as well. There will be multiple choice questions, right? You'll have the answer. You'll have a number of different options to answer the correct answer. To pick the correct answer, there are multiple answer questions where the answer might be more than one, as well as some short answers. And what I mean by short answers, nothing more than a few words to describe or to define what you're seeing in front of you. So again, here we have the context, or at least the format of the exam. As it relates to the context, what will we be seeing on the exam here? Well, the first thing I'd like to clear this off. The first thing I'd like to point out is that the biggest context of, or the majority of this exam will focus on the topics of anatomical directions, anatomical descriptions, and regions. So here we have here the anatomical position. That's going to be a key one as it relates to this. The body planes, sections, and identifying those different planes, body cavities and regions as well as this anatomical terminology. Well, it's whether it's key body regions and directions. So this alone is about half of the test. I won't berate that up there, but half of the test is just anatomical position. Maybe even a little bit more than half of the test is just anatomical positions, body planes, identifying the different directions and coronal planes, as well as some very familiar regions. The rest of the exam will focus on some of those other topics that you see, which include the definition of anatomy and physiology, as well as some examples of each. The definition of homeostasis, it's important, as well as the concepts of metabolism, catabolism, and anabolism. And then at the bottom there, some imaging. There's very seldom questions there on the imaging, but there might be some questions related to imaging that you might see. So again, as I mentioned, this is going to be a exam that'll have a format with a number of different types of questions, I guess, for lack of a better term here. So let me just give you an idea of what you might see here in some of those tests. So the first one here, I'll give you a couple examples. Let's take a look. We'll throw some up here on this on the. Okay. So as I mentioned, you'll have an hour and 15 minutes to complete this exam. You'll see the timer up there at the top of the screen. And again, this is related to chapter 1. So you can see here the anatomical term for the leg region distal to the knee. So what is the anatomical term for the leg region distal to the knee? In this question, you will type the appropriate answer in the box. So again, this is identifying a specific body region. What is this region down here that is distal to the knee? And you would type the answer here in the box. There will be some points associated with spelling. So again, correct spelling will be for full credit. If there is some misspellings, there may be some a small deduction in points. And here's another one associated with the anatomical body regions. You're going to catch quite a few of these. Again, what is the anatomical term for the chin? What is the anatomical term for the chin region in this case here? Highlighted in green. And so moving on. Oh, here's one that's associated with some of the body systems. So now we're looking at the blank system houses the blood forming cells of the body. So which of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 systems is responsible for production of blood cells or the blood forming cells in the body? You would take that answer there and just put it up to the box. And that's how you would get your correct answer. So multiple choice here, right? This is a multiple choice question, while the other previous one, this is also a multiple choice question related to different body systems. So the blank system secretes hormones that regulate growth process, right? So which of the systems, lymphatic, muscular, nervous, skeletal, or endocrine, blank system secretes hormones that regulate growth processes? And then finally, I'll give you 5 on the preview here. What is the serous membrane here lining the abdominal cavity? Yeah, lining the abdominal cavity. What is the serous membrane lining that lines the abdominal cavity? And so, again, these are the preview of some of the questions here that you'll see. Again, there's multiple choice, another type of multiple choice, and some short answers. Again, associated primarily with the anatomical directions is going to be key. So there's chapter one, that the review of chapter one here, and I've been grading through the lab assignments as well. One thing that I'll note is that for some of my online students, the lab assignments are being duplicated. So remember to sign in with your AZ Western or whatever account that you originally associated with your lab, your online lab program. So what you'll see here is that I've got students, and I won't show it up there, but I've got students that have multiple. Here, this class only has, let's put it this way, this class only has 24 students. However, I have 31 currently in my class, which means that students are duplicated. And so I'll reach out to those students, but ultimately what you're going to do is talk to the IT services associated or the customer services associated with that, and they'll get that straightened out. But if you're having trouble with if you're my online student and you're having trouble logging in and completing assignments associated with your lab assignments online, it may be that you've logged in from a different account. Okay. So we talked about the chapter one. Chapter two here is going to be our focus for the rest of the week, as we talk a little bit about the chemical level of organization. And I really broke up this chapter into two sections. So the chapter two here, I think I'm going to just have to make another slide as we go. But chapter two, as we're starting to focus into this next so chapter two again is chemistry. So the two major sections here are going to related to chemistry are going to be this. The first is just going to be a basic chemistry review. And that's what we're talking about as it relates to topics related to elements, right? What's the definition of an element? Atoms, and subatomic particles like electrons, neutrons, and protons. These are going to be some of the things that you need to be familiar with as it relates to chapter two. Again, I'm going to continue. I'll kind of hit you with a couple more here as we go. But subatomic particles. No, that's not it. Chemical bonds. And finally, chemical reactions. In the second part, we talk about inorganic and organic molecules. Compounds, we can even call them. So in this concept, we'll be talking about the primary inorganic compound, which is going to be water. So the properties of water. And then finally, the organic molecules, which include carbohydrates, protein, fats or lipids, and nucleic acids. So, what is their makeup? Where would you find them in the body? Right? What is their primary function? What are some of their functions if there is more than one? So the chapter 2, again, broken up into two big parts here, right? The first one we'll identify as the basic chemistry review here. We've got this portion here talking about some of the basic elements. What is an element? What's the definition of an element? Where would you find the element? What are the more common elements in the human body? Atoms and subatomic particles. What is the makeup of atomic structure? What are those subatomic particles? How do the subatomic particles interact to create chemical bonds? And then ultimately, the chemical reactions are ones in which either energy is going to be released or energy is going to be absorbed or stored. And so, what are the names of those types of reactions that occur? Again, the reactions that build up and the reactions that break down. What are synonymous terms for each of those types of reactions? And then finally, inorganic and organic compounds. So water, what are the special properties of water, and why are they helpful, or why are they necessary to sustain life? Uh, and then the organic molecules, which really make up you and I. Carbohydrates, where are these stored? They're primarily the source of fuel. Proteins, which are the most versatile organic molecule. They're seen throughout the body, and they're primarily act in a number of different functions. Fats, lipids. So remember, the cell membrane is a phospholipid, biphospholipid membrane. And then nucleic acids are primarily seen in the structures are in the compounds of DNA, deoxyribose nucleic acid, ribose nucleic acid, and ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Trying to find my mouse. Here it is. So, again, in closing here, the things that I want to hit on are this. This is week 2 as we enter into anatomy and physiology. Getting into the review of chemistry. We're moving into, as we move out of chemistry, we'll get into some cell biology. From cell biology, then we get into really like the anatomy and physiology specific topics like tissues, or some of those systems like the integumentary system. And you'll see those here as we continue here down the semester. But today, and the focus here for this week is going to be the primary focus of preparing for our exam of Chapter 1. So remember that Chapter 1 exam will open up here tomorrow. You guys will be taking that, and so there's the Chapter 1 exam. And then turning our attention shortly after that to Chapter 2, where we'll have a review of chemistry, and Chapter 3, a review of cell biology over this next week as well. We'll be looking at microscopes. So both my online and in-person class will be working on microscope labs here in this section as well. As you can see here, there is some extra credit associated with the lab assignment. So you can see that there is some extra credit. It's called Beyond the Elements. This Beyond the Elements extra credit is associated. It's a video. You'll watch the video. You answer the questions. You answer the questions associated with it, and you can get points for extra credit. So there you have it, Chapter 2, as we enter into week 2 of the semester here. Guys, it is always a pleasure watching you guys work so hard and watching your dedication to the field of anatomy and physiology. It's not an easy topic, particularly as it relates to almost learning a new language. So with that in mind, I will wrap this up. And again, thank you guys for your time. I look forward to seeing all your responses here in the next few days, including the exam here coming up over. Jump a couple slides. Especially the exam here, as we'll be grading them shortly after the weekend, and then continuing on in through the anatomy and physiology of the human body. Again, guys, thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing all your responses.